The moment you start looking down on someone who is struggling, be careful. You may simply be standing in summer, forgetting that winter comes for everyone. That is something life has humbled me into understanding. Because there were times in my life when I thought I had things figured out. Not in a loud, arrogant way. I didn't walk around saying I'm better than other people. Most of us don't. But there was a quiet feeling underneath. I had a good job, a career that was moving, a relationship, a home, children, friendships, confidence, a life that looks stable from the outside. And when life is working, it is very easy to believe that you understand something other people don't. It is easy to look at someone who is struggling and think, why don't they just make better choices? Why don't they get themselves together? Why are they repeating the same patterns? Why can't they see what I see? I noticed this trap because I have lived it myself. When I was at faculty studying philosophy, I hit a season where everything started clicking. I finished my studies, got my first real job, bought my own apartment, and had a partner. I checked all the boxes early. And I remember looking down on my fellow students who hadn't finished their degrees yet, who didn't have partners, who hadn't bought a home. Internally, I felt superior. I thought I had figured out exactly what life was all about, and that they were somehow lesser or behind. I'm not proud of that, but that is how I really felt. But I was completely wrong. Eventually, those same students did all of those things, and in some areas, they did them even better than me. Meanwhile, I faced deep structural faults that I thought could never happen to me, like navigating a painful divorce and watching the life I knew fall apart. It was a brutal reminder that summer is still just a season, not proof of permanent superiority. And maybe we don't say those things out loud about feeling superior or arrogant. Maybe we are too polite for that. But inside, judgment can still be there, subtly, quietly, wrapped in the feeling of, I would never end up there. And that is where we lose perspective because life has seasons. And when you forget that, you become superior in summer and ashamed in winter. And that is a trap. In summer, everything flows. You feel clear, you feel confident, you know what you want. Money may be flowing, relationships may feel good, work may feel aligned. Your body has energy, your mind feels steady. You feel like you are finally standing on top of your life. And because everything feels easier, you may start believing it is because you are better, more disciplined, more aware, more capable, more evolved, more successful, more in control. But summer is still a season. It's not a proof of superiority. It's not a proof that you will never be lost again. It's not a proof that you have mastered life. It is simply a season where things are flowing. And then autumn comes. At first, it may not be dramatic, just a small crack, a wrong decision, a difficult conversation, a challenge you didn't expect, a relationship tension, a health concern, money pressure, a moment where your confidence wobbles and something begins to shift. The leaves start falling, the life that felt so certain start asking new questions. And then winter comes. Winter Winter is the season where everything feels heavier. You question yourself, you lose confidence, you don't know the direction. Your mind starts playing horror movies about everything that could go wrong. You wonder if you made the wrong decision. You wonder what happened to the person who used to be so sure. You wonder if you're failing. And if you're not careful, winter becomes more painful than it needs to be because you start attacking yourself for being there. You think, I should know better by now. I already worked through this. Why am I here again? Why am I confused again? Why did I lose myself again? But maybe you did not fail. Maybe you're simply in winter. And winter is also part of life. The problem is not that life has seasons. The problem is that we think summer means we are superior and winter means we are failing. Both are major misunderstandings of the human design. When we forget that reality, we slip into summer arrogance during our peaks, and then we crash into winter shame during our valleys. And neither reaction makes any sense when you step back far enough to see how the system actually works. When we are in summer, we forget humility. When we are in winter, we forget compassion. And I know this because I have lived both. I have had summers where I felt confident, capable, clear, seasons where I felt like I knew what I was doing, season where things looked good from the outside and I quietly judged people who seemed lost, stuck, or less organized than me. Not because I was cruel, but because I had mistaken my summer for proof that I understood life better. And then life humbled me when my relationship struggled and the life I thought I knew started falling apart. It wasn't only the outside change that shook me, it was what happened inside me. The hardest part was not the practical circumstances, it was losing my confidence. That shook me more than almost anything because I had always seen myself as a confident person. I was capable, strong, determined, responsible, the one who could handle things. And then suddenly I was worrying about everything, afraid of everything, questioning everything. My inner world, the place I thought was solid, started shaking. And that is terrifying when confidence has been part of your identity. Because then the question becomes, who am I if I'm not that confident person anymore? Who am I if I'm afraid? Who am I if I don't know what to do? Who am I if I need help? That was one of the most humbling parts for me, needing help, admitting I could not carry everything alone. I had been raised with this belief that I could do it all, that I should be strong, that I should manage, that if something needed to be done, I would find a way. And yes, there is strength in that, but there is also danger in it. Because when I can do it all becomes your identity, asking for help feels like failure. Being vulnerable feels like weakness. Struggling feels like proof that something is wrong with you. And for me, humility began the moment I had to admit I cannot carry this alone. That sentence can feel like defeat, but sometimes it is the beginning of wisdom. because life will humble every person who believes that they are above needing support. Maybe not today, maybe not in the same area, but eventually something will remind you that you are human. And that is not a punishment, it's a return to perspective. I notice this with my children too. They are teenagers now, and sometimes they genuinely believe they have everything figured out. And I probably did that too at some point. Most of us do. There are phases in life where we think we know, we think we see clearly, we think we understand everything better than the people before us. And then life throws us off the saddle so fast, we barely know what happened. And I want to be completely direct with you here. If you have found your way, you're eventually going to get lost again. And if you're lost right now, the clarity is guaranteed to return. That is not a failure, it's a neutral fact of human weather. This is a part of being human. We get clear, we get confused, we feel strong, then we feel fragile, we feel certain, then we question everything. We find our way, then we lose it again. And then softly, spring comes. Spring is not instant, it does not arrive with fireworks, it begins quietly. A little clarity, a little breath, a small decision, a conversation that helps, a moment of peace. A morning where you wake up and something feels slightly less heavy. A tiny sign of life returning. And then eventually, summer may come again. But if you have learned something from winter, you enter summer differently. You enjoy it, but you don't worship it. You feel grateful, but not superior. You feel confident, but not untouchable. You celebrate what is working, but you don't have it as a proof that you are better than someone else. And that is the difference between confidence and superiority. Confidence says, I'm grateful to be in good season. Superiority says, I am in this season because I'm better than you. You are not the same thing, and those are not the same things. Confidence keeps your heart open, superiority closes it. Confidence allows you to enjoy your growth. Superiority makes you forget your humanity. Confidence says, I have learned something. And superiority says, they should know better. And the moment you begin looking down on someone else's winter, you have forgotten your own. And that is where judgment becomes dangerous. Not because you are a bad person for judging. We all judge sometimes, right? But judgment narrows your vision. It makes you see a person only through the season they are in right now. You see someone lost and you forget they may have had summers you know nothing about. You see someone struggling and you forget they may be carrying pain you would not handle any better. You see someone making choices you don't understand and you forget that if you were standing inside their thoughts, their fear, their history, their nervous system, their circumstances, you might not be so sure anymore. And this is where humility becomes deeply important. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility is remembering that you are not above the human experience. You're not above confusion. You're not above fear. You're not above needing help. You're not above losing your way. And strangely, when you understand that, you become softer, not weaker, softer, more human, more compassionate, less less impressed with your own good season, less ashamed of your difficult one. Because when our mind is clear, life looks different. Problems look smaller. Solutions seem possible. We feel capable. We feel grounded. We can look at life and think, I've got this. But when our mind is full of fear, insecurity, and heavy thinking, everything looks different. The same life can suddenly feel impossible. A simple decision can feel overwhelming. A conversation can feel threatening. A small mistake can look like the beginning of disaster. And this just means you are looking at life through different internal weather. And the weather moves. That is what I wish more people understood. A bad mental state is not a life sentence. A confused season is not your identity. A loss of confidence is not the truth of who you are. It is the weather. It may stay for a while. It may feel heavy, but it moves. And when you understand that, two things change. First, you stop making yourself superior when the weather is beautiful. And second, you stop destroying yourself when the storm comes. And that is real freedom. Because if you believe summer means you're better, winter will feel like humiliation. But if you know life moves in seasons, summer becomes gratitude and winter becomes learning. I think one of the greatest lessons humility taught me is gratitude. Not the polished kind, not the social media kind. Real gratitude. The kind that appears after life is stripped away, has stripped away illusions that everything is guaranteed. Gratitude for another day, for being able to walk, to run, to feel, to eat, to spend time with my kids, to breathe, to start again, to have a moment of peace, to have people who care, to have enough. Things I may have taken for granted before, things that are actually enormous. Because when you have been humbled, ordinary life becomes sacred again. Not perfect, sacred. You stop needing everything to look impressive before you can feel rich. You start seeing how much is already here. And that does not mean you stop growing. It does not mean you stop wanting more. It does not mean you settle for less than you are capable of. It means you stop using your current season as a reason to look down on someone else. And you stop using someone else's summer as a reason to hate your winter. That is where so much suffering comes from. Compassion, comparison, judgment, shame, superiority. All of it comes from forgetting that life moves. So I want to ask you gently but directly, where in your life do you feel quietly superior right now? Where do you look at someone and think, I would never do that? Where do you believe your current clarity makes you better than someone who is confused? And on the other side, where are you being cruel to yourself because you are in winter? Where are you calling yourself a failure because you lost confidence? Where are you ashamed because you need help? Where are you expecting yourself to be in summer all year long? Because that is not how life works. No tree blooms all year. No fields gives harvest in every season. No human being is clear, confident, motivated, peaceful, and strong all the time. There are winters, there are springs, there are summers, there are autumns, and each one teaches something different. Summer teaches gratitude, autumn teaches attention, winter teaches humility, spring teaches trust, and all of them belong. So if you are doing well right now, enjoy it. Please enjoy it. Let yourself feel proud. Let yourself celebrate. Let yourself be confident. But stay humble. Because this season does not make you superior. It makes you blessed, supported, aligned, fortunate, prepared. Maybe all of that, but not better. And if you're lost right now, if you are in winter, if you are questioning everything, please stop turning that into shame. You are not failing because you are in a hard season. You're learning. You're being invited inward. You're being asked to see something differently. You're being asked to soften, to receive help, to stop pretending you can carry everything alone. And maybe one day this winter will become the very place where your deepest wisdom began. And if this conversation opens something around judgment, either toward yourself or toward others, you'll find the link below this episode to my simple course on judgment. It's there if it feels like the right next step for you. Because the goal is not to never judge again. The goal is to notice when judgment is stealing your perspective. To notice when superiority is closing your heart. To notice when shame is making your winter colder than it needs to be. And to come back to humility, to compassion, to truth, to yourself. Because if you're doing well right now, be grateful, not superior. If you're lost right now, be patient, not ashamed. Life moves, seasons change, and none of us are above needing grace. Welcome home.